am a certified grief coach. I've been coaching in some capacity, whether it started out as middle school cheerleading and moving into career coaching when I was a federal employee, moving up so quickly. People always wanted to know, how did you do that? How did you do your resume? How do I get ahead? But as I talk to mostly women throughout my journey, listening between the lines, what I'm hearing from them is not, I need a resume or I want a new job. It's, I'm suffering with loss, with grief. I don't know how to move forward. And of course, we've been through life now, so we've all experienced grief and loss. And if I didn't have 8 million degrees, I would have gone back and got a degree in clinical psychology. But when I found grief coaching, which is a present and focused, forward focused approach to dealing with issues, I said, this is it. This is how I can help women, how I can help all of us begin to move from being a grief avoidant society to being grief integrated, grief intentional, and grief acceptance. So that is how I got here.
You talk a lot about working with women and helping women through all of their coaching. What are some common misunderstandings or misgivings as it comes to women and how we deal with grief?
Sure. Just one of the most common misunderstandings about grief is that it's tied to death or tied to the loss of a person. I can tell you that one of my most profound experiences with grief when I started to look at it differently is when I moved across country and said, why am I feeling like this when this was actually moving back from the Midwest to the East Coast, which is home? I'm like, why am I feeling this way? That's because I enjoyed my life in the Midwest. It was a slower pace. I connected with my husband more. I was trying new things. And then I came home so quickly because of a job. And I'm like, wait a minute, I've lost something and I need to grieve that loss. So I think we often only associate it with death. And as we know, as women, society has done a number on us where we have to be strong, yet we can't show emotion. If we are working women, we have to act like we don't have a job when we're at home, and when we're at work, we have to act like we don't have a family because society just wants so much from us, and we've never been given permission to actually grieve. But we also want to understand that grief is an act of love. It's a part of a love story. And so it's nothing to avoid or to hide from. And you can also learn and grow and still find beautiful things in life while you're grieving, as long as you integrate it into your life versus trying to stuff it down, which we know if you have a stomach ache, you got to let it out or it's going to rot from the inside. Grief works the same way. You have to let it out. Emotions tied to grief are normal and natural, but when grief is unattended, that is when the emotions can turn negative. So we need to understand also as women, we have significant life changes and they more significantly impact us. Things like divorce, or when our kids go off to college, or if we have a miscarriage, or all these other things that are unique to women sometimes, where we just don't have a space to let it down.
It's interesting how you said everybody, associates grief with loss, with someone dying, and how you flipped it, and it's just the loss of something. So grief,
Mhm.
by definition, is just the loss of something. So being that this is like a creative podcast for people, designers, entrepreneurs, so is creative, how would that show up for us? Like how would that show up for like a creative person? Maybe somebody lost their job, or
Yes.
someone, I don't know, like lost their relationship. How would that show up in like a creative sense?
It shows up the same way because you're suffering a loss, and we have to think about all that we hope for in life. We have hopes, we have dreams. When we start our businesses and we're excited, we think we're going to make $1 million and we're going to partner with, I don't know, name a Black designer, Sergio Hudson. And when those things don't happen, we are crushed. So it manifests itself as if someone is dying because something has died. A dream may be lost. Finances may be lost. You, as you mentioned, if you are now a full-time entrepreneur, solopreneur, your friends go away. Your husband might leave you. So there are all of these things that can accompany starting and running a business that have the same type of grief effect. And of course, there are cascading effects. So you get that divorce, and thankfully, nobody on this call has been divorced, including me. So I feel comfortable using that example. But when you get divorced, now you've lost an income, and now you may have to change your dream. You got to go back and get a job when you left the job and thought you were going to be a full time creative. So it manifests in all of those ways, but the emotions tied to it that we feel, the sadness, the fear, the anxiety, the guilt, the regret, are similar to what we have even when we lose a person.
That really kind of hits home because, as someone who's had to go back to work after trying the full time creative, it was a struggle, just to get back into having to go back to a 9 to 5 when I've had all this creative freedom for a number of years. So that really hit home. And that makes me think about, like, what kind of advice would you give somebody who is struggling with having to maybe go back to a 9 to 5 job, or having to close their business, or even if they're just not feeling that creative passion anymore and don't know how to get out of that slump of letting the business go when it's not working anymore?
So, one thing that I want to be sure to clarify is that I'm a grief coach, which is different from therapy and counseling. So, in grief coaching, we don't diagnose, treat. I'm not a medical or a health professional. Coaching is really present and forward focused, it's action oriented. It's how can I move from functioning to high functioning. So if you are experiencing things, feelings, behaviors that are less than functioning, that's a sign that you may need medical, clinical type of attention. So I wanted to clarify that piece of it. You heard me mention in the beginning, or maybe in the intro, about gratitude. And my coaching framework is all about living through hope and gratitude. We can look at any text, religious text, anything that we believe in, all of our teachings. Nowhere does it say that living is absent of suffering. So we know that suffering is a part of life. No one ever said it's going to be amazing every single time. And even in the context of counting it all joy, we tend to think joy means you have to be happy about everything. But what it really means is that you're living a life. If you are experiencing suffering, that means you're alive. If you are experiencing a setback, you still have a chance to move forward. So when we are in that place where we don't want to be, we have to go through a self-reflection process where we can ask ourselves, how do I want to show up now? How can I still accomplish my dream? Going to work has never been the end of the world for anybody, because with these jobs now, we can do more than one thing at once. How about I now have a stable income where I can re-energize my business for a year and hustle hard and then go back to full time being an entrepreneur? So it's really about the reflective piece and questioning, how am I choosing to show up today in this moment, and what am I going to actually do about the dream that I still want to come true?
I mean, you mentioned it a little bit in terms of like moving forward, but how would you like recommend someone who feels like stuck in that place and they feel that they can't get through? Like whether whatever the loss is, whether it be
Huh?
loss of someone's, job, a business, whatever that is, and how like what steps would you take to move forward?
So, grief is unique to whoever is grieving. So, I hear the questions about steps, but you won't ever hear me say, first do this, second do this, and then do that third thing, because grief doesn't work that way. It's not linear, it's not pretty, although it can be beautiful. So, what I would encourage people to do when they're feeling stuck is do the hard thing. We have to, and this is something we say in grief that usually takes people's breath away. You have to relinquish the expectation of a better or different yesterday. We cannot change that. We cannot go back to it. Guilt and regret are big emotions to try to get through when we're grieving, but how useful are they? If I had only done this, if I had answered the phone when they called, if I had gone to this FIT versus going to wherever I ended up going to school, those things cannot change where you are now, and they cannot go with you where you're going. So we have to relinquish that expectation that yesterday is going to somehow be different. We have to also practice forgiveness, and that includes ourselves. We need to say to ourselves, like, I forgive myself and others for everything related to the loss. Maybe that business partner left you hanging. If you have not forgiven them for that, again, you are the one that's going to be stuck. They've rebranded and they ripping somebody else off, but you're still stuck. So we need to ask ourselves these questions, like, how much have I actually lost by not forgiving? That's how you become unstuck, with the self-reflection piece of that, where you are really thinking about you, how you're showing up, what did you actually lose? What can this teach me about loss? I would think in this business, we hear a lot of people who start businesses or name products after loved ones, like Carol's daughter and, Uncle Jesse's or whatever it is. And if we lose that person, we're like, how can I go on? They would have wanted me to do this, or they would have wanted me to do that. So we have to be a little bit selfish in our grief and our growth, where we try to take control over what can I do now? Who do I want to become? What do I want to say to the person that I'm grieving? What do I want to say to the old me? And once you let those things out, now who do I want to be moving forward? So it's deep work. It's deep work. And that's what coaching does, take you through that framework of really understanding who you are and how you want to move forward.
But I think that is the biggest fear for a lot of people, is that self-reflection and doing that self-work and digging deeper than saying, oh, I'm okay, or I'm sad about it, but just digging into and getting deeper into the root of the problem.
Let's say it's not you that's necessarily grieving, if it's somebody else that you see grieving. I mean, I know it's like we talked about the deep work and you have to
Hmm.
self-reflect and
Hmm.
stuff, but how could you help somebody else through it? I mean, what would you do to like encourage them to do the deep work?
Absolutely. One, we have to understand that grief has its own language and how we talk to people. We're a grief avoidant society. So we just do what we think we know when we say, oh, I'm so sorry for your loss. But that can really upset people. Or when we want people to get through it and feel better because we love to check a box, we may say, well, at least you're still young, you can get married again. Or you lost your baby, but you got two other kids. What's going on with you? You can always start your own business. It was just a little business. You weren't making any money anyway. So we have to understand that empathy doesn't start with the words at least. And we don't want to minimize how someone is feeling, because it can be more than one thing. Yes, I may still be able to get married again, but I'm also still crushed about my divorce, and give them permission to live in that and help them through it. Be very specific about what you can offer. If you say, hey, call me anytime, they call and you're not there, then what happens? So how about, I'm going to the grocery store, can I get something for you? I'm near your house, I'll come sit with you if you let me. I'm going to our favorite coffee shop at 2 o'clock. Whether you come or you don't come, I'm going to sit there for 15 minutes and just wait for you. The best thing you could also do is ask them, how would you like to be supported in this time? Maybe they don't know, but you can offer them things like this. And one of the greatest gifts that you can offer someone is to give them permission too. Because just like we're having this conversation, others have not had it. So they think they have to tell you that they're okay. They think they have to show up in a brave face, with a brave face. These jobs for 9 to 5 folks, they only give you 3 days of bereavement as it is. So you feel like you have to keep going. So making sure that you are gentle with them. And that's also a sign for us to do that with ourselves, because we treat friends so much better than we treat ourselves. If our friend is suffering a loss and they say, I can't make it to the event today, we say, oh, that's okay, we get it. But for us, we're like, oh my God, they're going to think so bad of me. I got to show up. I need to be there. It doesn't matter if this thing just happened. So we need to treat ourselves like we would treat others who are experiencing losses too.
So, I mean, I know we were about to wrap up, but is there anything else that we have not touched on that you think that the audience should know?
One thing to think about is community, just like you're doing here with this podcast, or how you do when you have your collectives and everything else. Finding space that appreciates whatever it is that you're going through. It's not something that we need to go through alone. Although we're talking about self reflection, we also have group coaching and things like that that may be beneficial, because when you start to connect with others and really see that you're not alone, that unlocks a lot of creativity and healing and hope and gratitude as well. So make sure that you are not in a place where you want to completely cut off from everyone else. And we're tempted to do that because we don't want anyone to see. We've not given anyone permission. And as business owners, I think there was one question that I saw earlier about just what to do when you get stuck. I'm trying to think of, let me look on here. Oh, the balance. How do you show up? How do you balance being showing up professionally while you're grieving? And I think now with social media and with other things, we have the beauty of being able to integrate our personal and professional lives. There's really not this hard line anymore. So it's okay to say to your customers, you haven't seen me on social media in a while. Here's a tidbit about what's been going on in my life. You may be surprised how they respond to that. Same thing with your family. I'm starting a business now. Somebody else is going to have to cook dinner. I'm not messing with y'all. And really just make it known that you're in this space and that you are working to show up, one, for yourself, show up for them. But here's what you need. Just like you are being specific with your friends about what you can provide, you also have to be specific with your friends about what you need from them or what you don't need from them. And you can integrate them into your grieving process instead of trying to keep them away from it, because they're going to notice anyway. So that's one way to try to work that out. I did. So most of my clients are government, corporate types, and all of those things. But because I was coming here and I want to show up for the people, I did create a download that you all can pick up. It's called Creative Momentum: 3 Gentle Actions to Grieve and Grow Your Business with Courage. So my coaching circles and my coaching practice is called Anchored in Courage. And we know that it is a courageous thing to face a loss and do it with gratitude. So I'm under that umbrella, Creative Momentum. That'll be at anchoredincourage.com, and we'll put that in the show notes. But I want to just leave with an invitation for you to have more of these conversations. They don't have to be so segmented, like what do we do for business or what do we do for creatives, because grief is something that everyone experiences. And so it's universal, even though how we deal with it is unique. And I just want to leave you with hope is always present. So I wish you all well in your grief journeys.
Thank you for joining us today. I am Naima from Fearless Threads, along with
Sahia from Cover Me Chic.
Letitia of Keeping Your Stitches.
A Fatima of Anchored in Courage.
we'll see you next time.